Welcome to the Red Pill Diaries. This is Craig. So, in case you're wondering what I'm doing about the coronavirus, I just don't give a shit. Because in the grand scheme of things, there is actually nothing that anyone can do if it's real, which it most likely is. I wanted to cover that straight away because people are spreading a lot of information, and I'm not going to say it's disinformation or not because I don't know what's real and I don't know what's not real. None of us do. And the arrogance of some so-called specialists that think they have all the answers because they don't either, right? Like they have no idea what, even the person working in the lab to create the vaccine themselves may not know the reason why they're creating vaccines. I have a feeling that something's wrong in Denmark. And I've said for years that what we want to do in the future is get away from mass concentrations of people, because this is where the problem's going to come in. This is why I live where I live. Being a place that grows food, being a place that has water. I know I did a video about this a few months ago, maybe July last year I think it was, saying very much the same things. We really don't know whether this is the end game. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to piece together a few videos that I've done various times across the years that explain a couple of things. So one of them is this end game theory that I have. It's linked to automation. So I've mentioned this a lot of times. So basically, automation is a situation where there are going to be so few jobs, remembering that the jobs that have been taken so far are only the tip of the iceberg to what can already be taken away. And the only thing that has previously stopped certain jobs disappearing off the face of the earth is the fact that you sitting with your feet under the desk or pushing a brush or whatever it is you do in your job is still fractionally cheaper when you factor in your wages and the risk of you being sick, the company having to claim some kind of insurance for you. All these factors are slightly more expensive than replacing you, and that's the only reason that you still have your job. Now a lot of people won't believe that's the truth. You want to go down there and have a swim? A lot of people won't believe that's it. Look at him go. He's so cute. But that is the truth. Everything in business is the bottom line, right? So when these jobs inevitably dry up, and the thing is, Andrew Yang actually started speaking about this. I don't trust that guy as a politician, but I'm just saying he touches on a point that's fairly obvious that people like me have been making for well over 10 years, because I've been in automations for about 20 years. And I've been making this point from almost the beginning, that capitalism cannot sustain. Socialism can't sustain either. So there's a kind of, in some ways, true capitalism, which we don't have, is a kind of survival of the fittest in a monetary sense, right? Socialism becomes a survival of the most lazy and the weak, whoever wants to breed the most, and that could be anyone, right? So it's flawed as well. Socialism will never work. Capitalism will never work. And the only thing that has worked for a long time is anarchism, right? And even that is debatable as to whether that's the right answer or not. Come on, wee man. So, when these jobs all dry up, as they will, what will the system do with you? And the way you need to understand this best is to ask yourself, well, what am I? What am I to my government? Now, we can see all around the world, no matter what country you live in, unless it's been recently changed administration, or, you know, most countries at some stage have had some pedo ring running them, right? So basically, most countries are run by people who are career politicians. That means they cannot do anything else. That means they're effectively useless people. Useless at doing anything other than, you know, shuffling numbers, legislation. Their whole life is like a ring-a-ring-a-rosies trickery scheme around a legal framework, right? Ask them to actually build something and create something, they can't do it. And these people are funded by your taxes. So your taxes are effectively theft, and they are funded by the theft of your money that you've earned and worked for. Whether you choose to want these governments or not, you are given them. So they are, by default, parasites. And like any parasite, there are very few silver linings in their whole playbook. There might be some, like for example, maybe a local swimming pool will get built. But overall, you'll be given far less. You'll be giving away far less than what they will actually bring to you as an institution or framework or organization, right? So to understand where you are, you'll have to look at cattle in a field, right? All we are is advanced cattle. At the point at which we are no longer required, the cattle get slaughtered, right? So to put this another way, imagine I wanted to do great things in this bare piece of land here, right? What I could do is attract people around with promises of a little sliver of my savings, stuff that I've actually worked for. I could also talk it up and pretend I had more than I had, and try to convince these people to say, oh, well, look, he's going to give us this, this, and that. Oh, well. So there's a mixture of promises and feeding them. And then after that work gets going, and by the way, while I'm explaining this, constantly be thinking in your head, how do sheep work? How do cows work? You sow the grain, they eat the grass, then after a while, soon after, your investment starts to pay off for you, and then it gets to the stage where they cost you nothing. They are paying for themselves, and what you are now is becoming a parasitic entity. That is effectively what capitalism is, and I don't give a shit what anyone says. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I understand that's what it is. You know, I could. Well, I suppose I don't really do business anymore in that respect. So. But I'm a capitalist when it comes to investment of things, right? And I suppose that still is feeding off of the dumb mistakes of others. People who take a long time to make investments. It's almost, you could say, it's not a Ponzi scheme, but it very is similar to a Ponzi scheme. If you get into something earlier, let's say if you got into gold years ago, well, you could see that as a Ponzi scheme, couldn't you? If you got into the monetary system, well, that's backwards actually. The monetary system becomes less and less valuable, so that's not a good example. Property market, there you go. The same kind of thing. So the reality is that at some stage when the cattle have done their job, so let's take America for example. America is a company that built itself up, especially in the last 100 years, through the printing of money, and not even on a level playing field with other monetary devices. So I saw Trump the other day saying that, oh look, that country can go change their money. I think he was talking about Australia, able to fluctuate their currency. He talks about China doing it. They can fluctuate the value of their currency. And he's bleating as if it's an unfair playing field. Meanwhile, the only reason American dollar holds its value is because people have to buy it to buy and sell. You know, they have to utilize it to buy and sell oil. So as far as the game being rigged or them having an unfair advantage, it's them who have the most unfair advantage. Okay, they might not have all the velocity levers that other countries have in other ways, but they've got the main one, which is our currency has to be used by everyone who wants to partake in the whole oil trade game, right? Now, that is the biggest scam ever. Now, when they remove themselves from the gold standard, as everyone's aware of now, 1971, they could print all the money they want and go to war, because you know what? No one could undermine it, because they still had to keep on buying it. Unlike the situation in Argentina or Zimbabwe, people could say, you know what? I think I'm going to stay away from that currency. You didn't really have a choice. Unless you wanted to stay away from the energy sector, you pretty much had to stay in the US dollar, right? So they were protected from basically treating their currency in the same way that a banana republic would. So the American currency is like banana republic currency, only privileged banana republic currency, right? So when the end game is up, so let's say, for example, well, let me just tell you what the game is. The game is to unlock the money from the hands of everyone. So just imagine to yourselves there are only 100 people in your country, and every person is given $1. And there's one person who's a greedy bugger who wants the whole lot. Well, he's the guy who turns you all into these slaves, saying, right, I'm going to take you guys can all have 10 cents of my dollar if you do this, this, and that. And then once they start on this kind of conveyor belt system, let's say the conveyor belt is the printing press to make more money, right? He starts giving himself a lion's share, and they do get some of his extra printed money, but they don't realize that all it's doing is diluting the value of their money. So every 100 that he makes, he gives himself, let's say, $90, and gives them all an extra 10 cents. It's the same money supply overall. So what he's effectively done is use their labor to make him richer, and when it really comes down to it, there is no more wealth that's being created. It's the same wealth there was before. And this is the problem with that system. You're not creating more wealth. It's the same wealth as there ever has been. So, there we go. So basically, the way I see it is that because if you look at the stocks and derivatives bonds market, because they have ballooned so heavily, and you're literally at the stage now where half of the world's population have less than 1% of the capital, right? That's the situation I was on about. The removal of capital from the many to the few. Even the top 50%. Within that top 50%, it's only 1% that actually hold most of the capital. So it means everyone's going to get shafted. Now, if you look at the situation with Boston Dynamics and all these other tech companies, so it could be everything from Facebook taking your information and handing it to the government, because it doesn't have to comply with, in the USA, it doesn't have to comply with the what do you call it? The Constitution. It's a private company. This is how all these companies, whether they started out this way or not, they're effectively owned by CIA, NSA, and the rest of them, right? They work for the government. This is Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. They deliver propaganda on behalf of the government. They filter content on behalf of the government. I was just telling someone today about, for example, the scams. He was saying that this is actually Optical Art Crypto channel. He's a TA channel, right? He was basically giving them a lot more credit than they deserve, saying that YouTube are stopping scammers. No, they don't, because all of the scammers that I've reported to YouTube and the IC3, which is a wing of the FBI, have done nothing about them. They don't want to protect people. Anything you see happening is happening because of another agenda, and that makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist. Although, if you check, just one example that I've said ages ago was the Trade Genius Academy channel. This is a scam channel, right? Is it still there? Yeah, it is. I prove my case. You come with some evidence that tells me I'm wrong, okay? You go out there and you try to find some scammers and you report them and you see if they're still there a few months later. They will be. FBI do nothing about these things. They don't give a shit about you. And by the way, I actually put a Freedom of Information request and it didn't even get answered within the 28 days, or even it's been over a year now. And they haven't responded because they don't give a shit. The rules that are in there Those rules are for you. They're not for them. They won't abide by any of these fucking rules. Those rules are for idiots like us. We see time and time again. Look at the royal family in the UK. Do you think they're ever going to hand in Prince Andrew? No. Do you think they'll ever hand in Ghislaine Maxwell? No, they won't. We know they've got. There's something there. There ain't smoke without fire, as they say. There's something there. Occam's razor. Use all these things. There's something going on. Will they face justice? No. History tells us nothing will happen. They will keep on sweeping under the carpet, no matter how many times it pops its head back up. Now, how many times the independent media will keep this stuff going? It will still get suppressed back down again. Even when it doesn't, well, look what they're doing now. All the elites, they no longer hide the fact that they're taking the piss out of all of us. And the reason why I think this is because we're near the end game. We're pretty soon, after they've locked us off in our little areas, where we can't move, can't communicate, the internet might be next. I know that's very difficult to do, but the average person doesn't know how to use Tor. The average person, if they're told that they do use VPNs and Tor, that they'll face a jail sentence, will start pissing themselves. Oh, okay, I'll do it. If you think it's for the best for me, I will do it, government. The average person are complete pussies, right? And this is the problem, because people need to stand together. This is why the divide and conquer thing is used all over the world and has been used for centuries, because they want to stop people standing together against these big pedo clubs that they have, against these big robbery syndicates, these cartels that they have, because they are robbing the rest of us. I've got nothing against someone being rich, but the simple fact is, for anyone who defends the whole, the extreme capitalism, or basically corporate socialism, because it wouldn't exist without taxpayers' money and your money getting fed into them. It's not a level. They wouldn't exist without a level playing field. They wouldn't exist without market protection. That is not capitalism. That is crony capitalism or corporate socialism. So what I believe we're at the stage of now is that they have effectively moved around the capital so much and displaced it from the hands of the average person that we are now getting to the stage where you are near a tipping point. Even the gullible masses are probably getting to the point now where they would probably make a stand, because if you take away everything someone has, they've got nothing else to lose. Then we're getting to that stage in society. Not from people like me, because I've planned ahead, but the problem is people like me will probably be at the front of the line to get killed by the masses because they think that I'm part of the problem, when I'm just a planner, someone who actually makes well, as you see, I'm living in the middle of nowhere. Not middle of nowhere. It's but you know what I mean. It's like rural area. It grows its own food. It's got water. It's got it's all the things are thought of. And yet right next door we have Italy with this coronavirus situation. And the other, just yesterday, my friend was coming into the border just over here from Austria, and they pointed a laser thing at his head to check his, check his temperature. So, of course it could be to stop the spread of the virus, but the reality is, the reason why I said at the start of the video we can't do anything is because we can't do anything. If it's already where it is mathematically, the old, the square root, the square effect. If you double something, double the number 2 once, twice, 3, 4 times, it only takes a few handfuls of doubling it, and then you've got billions, right? That's just how it works, mathematics, right? Well, if you've already got thousands of cases anywhere in the world, that's us already screwed. We cannot come back from that, right? So whether it takes you the other thing people think can happen is that we just wait until the weather changes. Now, unless you're a flat earther, or actually even if you are a flat earther, there still is winter and summer. There still is effectively northern south hemisphere, except on their little dartboard it's different, So because I don't want to get into this fucking argument about. I don't want to get into this argument even about what's it called, synthetic, hologrammatic. Simulation Earth. It doesn't really matter, even if we're in a simulation. All these effects, if I go throw something at that stick just now, it's going to move, right? All these things have been programmed in, the same as the virus may have been. So regardless of what you believe in, it's still the same shit, right? People still get killed, people still die, your house can still burn down. You know, if you're a simulation theory person, these things, this is the reality that we have. Whatever this reality may be, it's what we have. And I really think it's getting to the stage where they have what they need. The people in control have what they need. They have all the capital. And you think to yourself, well, they could have just taken it before. No, they couldn't, because they didn't have the power to overthrow the rest of us. It's not just about the power to overthrow the rest of us. It's about those of us who aren't quite at their level, or nowhere near their level, but they can't get rid of us yet, because we still represent too powerful a group in society. It's for us to say, okay, yeah, we accept them getting exterminated because they broke this, that, and the other law. They install their legal systems, which, as you know, change every year. If you think to yourself, every wrong that you had done to you in life, how many times did the legal system actually help where the 10 Commandments couldn't have? And, you know, if you apply it properly, I would say, in my own life, anything that's been robbed, stolen, misappropriated in any way from me, or any harm done to me, was actually, would have actually, if that was all we had as a law, 7 deadly sins and 10 commandments, I'm not even Christian, I'm just saying, if that's all we had, I would have been protected. Not just that, the amount of times where I've faced courts in different countries in the world, I would never have had to face them, because the things that I got pulled up on were stupid little, just intricate little traps the system had created. In other words, the legal system is not there to defend us, protect us in any way whatsoever. It's there to garnish money. It's there to be a trap for us. It's there to put people in prison, to make corporations money. It's there to increase the level of overall suffering in the world, so that whatever it is out there that feeds on energy, negative energy that is, it can get its fill. That's what I believe. I might be wrong. So, getting back to, they have the power now, they being the far less than 1%, the Boston Dynamics, the NSA, all these little outfits they have that are not voted for. And I'm using the USA as an example, but you need to understand, I do not think the US is the only place that is. I would say most countries, if not practically every country, is ruled by evil people. Because there's only evil people that want to have control over others. I've said this in other videos. So some things never change. And I think that what we're heading for is a situation of mass divide and conquer across class lines. And you're already seeing in the UK, for example, when I was back in the UK a couple of weeks ago, there was adverts talking about people not paying their taxes. And I noticed, oh, look at all these shows coming up now where these situations are being forced. It's basically like square peg, round hole. Let's force this story in here. And they were showing people taking red diesel, for example. You're costing the British taxpayer money, and just horrible people, right? It's like, well, obviously the people haven't got much money, and they're trying to get ahead because the system's screwing them over all the time. That's why why are you taking this from and pretending to be a farm vehicle and blah blah blah? Well, because they're trying to save money, you pillock. That's why, because they're getting the parasitic action of the government is just screwing them so much. They have to do something to get ahead. They're not you. They can't just create laws to benefit themselves like these elites can. So so that's what they're doing. So the thing is, those are people who, well, one guy had a business and blah blah blah, and you know, my point is, they're already trying to say, look, he's the guy who's making your life worse. It's diversion tactics. Oh, look, China's the one that created this virus, when it most likely was something that was created in collaboration with a few countries. Because whether America pretends to be at war with Russia and China and all these other things, they all move freely between each other's countries when it really comes down to it. Politicians do. Well, maybe not completely freely, but they still can move between these countries, right? And also when it comes to the academic and scientific communities, they definitely move freely between them. You've got Chinese all over America studying, working in universities. You've got the Nazis that came over to America, Operation Paperclip. This has been happening for a long time, and it will continue to happen for a long time. Why? Because there is them and there is us. The Spanish flu pandemic, for example, which killed millions of people worldwide, that, you'll be surprised to know, actually came from Kansas in the USA. Now, why do we call it Spanish flu? Well, I'm guessing it has something to do with saying, right, because a Spanish king, it might have been some royalty died from it, then it became known as the Spanish flu. I think it was just a sideshow. It's an excuse. It's just like I mentioned many times before. The reason why the language English is called English instead of British, because it was formed from all these languages before the name England even existed. The word Angle existed, but the word England didn't exist. So the reason that happened is because later on in time they used that language to say it's marketing, it's branding, and in the same way, it was marketing, it was branding to brand that disease from somewhere else. Just like this time, the Covid-19 situation has been associated to China, when it most likely was something that was made in collaboration, probably even produced in the USA, and taken out from the USA by a scientist who wanted to work in it a little bit more and then screwed up. Or, who knows, maybe did it on purpose. Maybe they're all in cahoots. Maybe, as I think I've said in the previous video, it was to stop having to pay this shortfall they have globally in paying for people's pensions, because they've been taking money, like America's spending money it doesn't have. They take money in taxes from all sorts of tax revenue, and they haven't got the money to pay us back. People aren't breeding at the rate they need them to, or maybe it was done on purpose. Maybe the change in the legal systems that we have to make women have excessive rights in so many countries that have made a lot of men just go MGTOW. Maybe that was all done on purpose to make people want to stop breeding and stop having kids. Maybe all these foods that you have, the amount of foods that have HFCS in America, I just cannot believe it. There has to be some kind of correlation between that and infertility and also obesity. But that's another story. But every direction you look, you can see a situation where the masses are growing and growing and growing, but yet becoming less and less powerful. That cannot be by accident. And I think the end game is slaughtering us all. Once you have built your little empire through the energy of cattle that were only intended to live for as long as required to help you build your empire, as long as you can still have full control over the cattle, or divide them so the bulls in the field can't storm you and just take on one bull at a time, then take all the ewes and sows and whatever else it may be, separate the stallions from the mares, yada yada yada, whatever it may be, the animal farm situation, then you're going to end up with just the pigs and the dogs, and they're going to screw everyone. I think we're at that level. I think this is the start of that downward spiral of the end game. And I did say it was going to be between 2020 and 2022. The reason why I didn't say 2020 is because I didn't want to be wrong again. Because when I said the financial collapse, for example, I thought it was going to be 2018, and it wasn't. So I thought, well, things sometimes happen slower than you think. Usually I'm a bit of ahead of the game, but no, this time it looks like it's starting now. It looks like, if you can imagine the wave effect now when the property prices crash because no one's getting given mortgages anymore, just like in 2008. Well, this property bubble around the world is far bigger than it was back then, because there's more properties than there were back then. And yet people still trust the system because they wouldn't do that. Anyway, I believe what we have coming up soon is a mixture of cyber warfare against the people, physical warfare against the people, and also overhanded policing by the system. And that can be that we've decided for your safety that you need to stay inside, and if you go outside, you're breaking the law, and we can do X, Y, Z to you. Oh, and usually steal whatever it is you have. That's what we have coming up, I believe. Now, if I'm wrong, oh well, I'm wrong. If I'm right, well, you know, if you have that in your head, what I'm saying, then you can maybe make some preparations to either last longer or be in a situation that when the hand is shown, when they actually show their hand and start exterminating people, that you're in a place that probably isn't the first one. So you can tell through the Underground Railroad what's going on, and maybe with some of your friends make preparations to maybe go into the wild, whatever it is, you know, get supplies, whatever it is, fill your what do you call it? Fill your excursion vehicle or whatever it is with a few of your friends, and you know, supplies and stuff, or fortify your village, you know what I mean, whatever it might be, make some plans. But you know, I'd say it's a 50%, it's a 50-50 chance that's where the stage we're at right now. And what's wrong with being prepared? What's wrong with even planning? Don't even make the preparations, with the exception of planning, so that when things do happen, it's like, right, okay, what did I plan to do before? Oh, that's right, this, and that. So you're not, you take it for granted when you think of when you are actually planning something like building a house, whatever it is. Imagine you had to build your house, but you needed to do it in a hurry, so you don't have time to plan. All the screw ups that you'd make. That's why when it comes to securing your life and whatever it is, your food supply, your water supply for your family, it's probably best to do it when you're not under stress. And that's the only reason why I'm saying this. I don't want to come across as a you know, as a trigger happy prepper who just thinks, oh, that's it, it's all kicking off now. It's just, if you look around the world, it seems that way. If you listen to a lot of people like myself for a long time, what's happening right now was effectively not this exact thing being the COVID virus, but I'm saying along these lines, has been predicted for years. And if you also look at history, there's, you know, Göbekli, I think it's called in Turkey, and you look at where the Sumerians are, you look at where the Babylonians were. Why have all these great cultures got no trace of the civilization that built them? If you believe in mud floods, same thing. If you believe in the orphans, there's lots of these different theories and lots of different. There's also evidence for a lot of these different theories. So I don't even know what you call that, conspiracy facts. But my point is, there's a lot of either evidence. There's also a lot of unknowns. There's things that we have around us where it's like, okay, well, fair enough. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist, but where the fuck are the people? Where are the civilizations? It's an unanswered question, but there is evidence there that shows there were people and now there's not. Why would that be? You'd be an idiot to say, oh, it's just nothing, you know, if it's just that these things happen. Well, yeah, but how do they happen? If you can't answer the question, you're nowhere, you know. So all I'm saying is, you know, treat it all like it's something nefarious. Because if you think that way, and it is, well, you've been prepared. I know I'm rambling on now. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me think if there's anything else I should cover. No, that's about it, really. Okay, take care. Bye.